You're listening to Love, Guns and Freedom with Luca Zanna on United States.fm network. Here we go, guys. You're listening to Love, Guns and Freedom with Luca Zanna on K-Talks 1340 AM and on United States.fm network. Second hour. I don't want to say this is my favorite hour, but I tell you, I really enjoy this hour because during the first hour, we talk about politics, we talk about police state, we talk about our rights, they are under attack every day. The second hour, I wanted to create something that is practical. Practical as a tool, practical for a learning experience also. Because as I said, we want to talk about the Second Amendment, of course, as a very simple human right. There is not much to talk for me. The right to keep and bear arms should be not infringed. End of the conversation, but that's fine. And then, of course, I like to talk about how to prepare, how to use it, how to train, how to become better, more efficient, and more responsible gun owners. That's the idea. Because, with freedom comes responsibility. Now, I've been listening, especially in the past, one of my inspirations when I used to, especially at night, work in my shop and cleaning my guns and trying to relax and trying to find like-minded people that they don't make you feel any more alone. You can feel like there are people out there that they have the same concerns, the same almost tribulation and the same hopes and the same also desire to prepare, to try to be better people that we can to defend this republic. One of the best things really I ever heard was, and it is, the intelligence report by Mark Corky. And there was always this extra voice. He's a very interesting guy. He sounds very young, by the way, by the voice. And now I'm going to ask him. And this is the guy that normally talks about different important technical things from pieces of equipment or night vision. And this is exactly the topic we will talk today, at least one of the topics. So it was always, for me, I don't know, some sort of almost surreal world. You come by myself at night here in Arizona, listening to this show, also on shortwave by listening on this on Liberty Tree Radio. So anyway, yesterday, a couple of days ago, I was invited, and I want to thank again Mark to have him on the show. He's helping me out to share this idea of the Don't Trade on Us rifle. So I'm very grateful. And I always love to have people on my show that they can share their point of views, their experience. We learn from each other, that's for sure. And after all, especially when you have a person that has a couple of years more than you, there is always something more to learn. So today I have with me Donald. Donald that is, I don't know, I'm going to find out exactly what he is, but he's a guy that knows a lot of stuff, that's for sure. And today specifically, I would like to talk about, among many things we can talk, about the importance that we must own at least one night vision, not just as a binocular or monocular, but especially for your platform rifle, whatever rifle you have. And then we will go there more. Why is so important? Now, let me get Donald on the air. Donald, are you there?
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Donald. First of all, sorry, but your voice sounds very like a young guy, okay? You're not a kid anymore. Can I ask you, how old are you, at least what type of generation you're from? Because I'm always so curious about that factor.
Well, I was born at the end of the Korean War. Let's
leave it like
put it that way. I've been around for a while.
Yeah.
There's a tooth here that's longer than the other.
Anyway, interesting, because you're from the voice. You sound like a young guy. Maybe just me that I'm crazy. I don't know. Sometimes I'm kind of weird. But anyway, congratulations, first of all, just to be around, because I really appreciate you. I really enjoy when you talk with Mark about practical and very, let's say, learning things to learn, and you have a lot of experience. Can I ask you a little bit about your background? How did you learn all these things? And normally you talk on the show with Mark. I mean, you just study, you just use your passion, or you have any type of background?
Well, that goes over to what you have an interest in, and if you find an interest in something, you can go out and read a book, and that's good if you want that kind of knowledge. But it's harder to gain hands-on or real-world experience from a book. If I've always said you don't go to the butcher shop for a toothache, and that's a Don original.
Yeah,
it really and truly is. But you know what that means? If you could go to the butcher shop for a toothache, but he's going to do a butcher job on you. You go to the guy who knows. and you ask the questions. If you want to learn how to play chess, you go to a guy who knows how to play chess.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense.
Yes. And so tell me a little bit about, because I want to introduce you to our listeners. In this hour, normally, as I said, I try to bring you people that have a first experience, hands experience on different topics when it comes down to training or even just to preparation. I mean, you talk a lot about different things. Also, you are in the business of sharing night vision. What exactly, who is Donald exactly? First of all, you're in Michigan, if I'm mistaken, correct? You're located in Michigan. Are you close to Mark?
Well, if you hold up the palm of your hand, Michigan map, I'm right in the center of the palm of your hand,
Mm-hmm.
and Mark is down around the heel of your thumb.
Okay, so
we're most of 200 miles apart.
Yeah, still in the same state, but not exactly next door.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's funny.
We cross paths now and then.
Yeah, because when I see, I hear you on the show, of course, you are probably on a phone line or whatever. Sometimes I forget that. I almost think you are close to each other. But tell us a little bit, before we go ahead and we talk about the topics that we want to talk, of course, a little bit about, because I always try to share Mark Horkin's show. I think it's been one of the foundation of the militia movement, also the preparedness movement, or the informed citizen who wants to prepare for different scenarios. Tell us a little bit about the show, when people can listen to the show, and where they can listen to the show.
Well, in the morning, you can listen on themicroeffect.com. You can listen on libertytreeradio.4mg.com. And how about that Indiana Freedom Talk Radio? I'm pretty certain you can listen throughout the day there. In the morning, it's 8 o'clock until 11 o'clock Eastern Time.
Mm-hmm.
In the afternoon, it's from 5 until 7, again, Eastern Time. Another hour off, and then we're back from 8 until 9.
Wow, that's like really a daily effort. And Intelligence Report is interesting format because you have every day a different topic. Of course, there is a main theme that is about preparation and also what's going on in this republic. But, you have like every day a little bit of a different topic. Can you just give an idea, for example, the basic different days, what people can find when they tune in to listening to your show?
Well, Mondays are an open day. We'll talk about any subject. Generally we'll review what the talking heads said on Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
Meet the Press this week in Washington and the other talking head. Tuesday is Communications Tuesday. Generally we'll talk about, radio communications or various other means of communication. Wednesday is my favorite day. Wednesdays is Weapons Wednesday.
Yeah, I like that too a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really topic. I mean, you really go into details, so much details of some stuff. That show that there is at least it's not just reading the book as you were saying. Something that you enjoy doing it and you do it, or at least you've been doing it. That's the fact, and I think it's very important. Now, talking about Wednesday weapon. You talk a lot about, you've been, at least the last few times I've been tuning in, you have this opportunity to share with the night vision for weapon system. Before we go even to the night vision, let's give the scenario what really could be to be in the darkness in any situation, and we don't need to wait for the EMP from North Korea or from a martial law scenario that cut us off all the electricity. Could be also just sometimes, for example, in Golden Valley, Arizona here, summertime, where we have the monsoon time, weather, just a little rain, we are completely in the darkness. And I tell you, even without waiting for the UN troops or the aliens from Mars or anything, that's something that, by the way, I'm completely concerned. We have many other problems before that, and the first level of garbage that we have is going to be organized or non-organized crime. Then when there is the darkness, they love that their time to go straight to business. So to be in the darkness, and people can say, okay, I have a flashlight, I have the floodlight, great. In some situation it could be okay, but the point is you're going to also have a magnet for bullets. Every time that you point the flashlight out, you're going to get shot. So let's articulate a little bit why it's so important, in your opinion, to have at least a a night vision, not just as a binocular or monocular, but mounted on your weapon, at least one. Let's go a little bit from there, and then tell us exactly what you do in that field. What do you offer?
Well, we've talked over the years about gun sight. You don't have to mount a gun sight on top of a rifle for it to be night vision sight. You can hold it in your hand. You know, some people take umbrance to having a gun point at them. We've talked about building teams. It would be good to have a viewer in team or compatibility with a gun sight for the aforementioned reason. You know, if you're wondering about something in particular areas, it might be better to bring a viewer up or not have the gun sight attached to the gun. But now we're saying, well, I'm going to just hold this in my hand instead of use it for what it's meant for. So again, it's a balance of everything. We can use a gun sight in our hand, but if we bring it up, the guy over there that's looking at us, if he's got a gun, he might feel threatened. You know what I mean? But again, if he's got a gun, you want to know it, right?
Yes.
So we have to take that daylight bit of operation, you know, how we might move from one area to another. If we're moving in a what we know is a friendly area, we might just walk across the field because, well, you know, there's no threats here. We might just walk across the field. But if we're moving in an area where we think there's a threat, we might move along or inside the brush line or even crawl from one area to another where there's not much cover. But when it gets dark, people tend to think that, oh, here's that thing, you know, the difference between cover and concealment. People believe the old adage about cover of darkness. Well, darkness does not stop bullets. There's a difference between cover and concealment. Concealment is I'm hiding behind this bush and they can't see me. But that bush is not cover from bullets, is it?
No.
So again, that old adage, under cover of darkness, really isn't true, is it?
No, it is not.
But we have to pay attention to this because even the amount of night vision that is in civilian hands now, let alone the military, should a military be deployed against this, you would be certain that groups of them, every American soldier has a piece of night vision. I would point out that I think it was 1997 when the Russians built a factory in China to build so the Chinese could build their own first-generation night vision. Now, we've also pointed out that there's a first-generation tube in every second, third, and even fourth-generation night vision device. So the Russians gave the Chinese the ability to advance their night vision also, because you can't build a second-generation, third, or fourth-generation tube without the basis of a first-generation tube. It's layers and technology that goes on to it that creates the next generation. So, we don't see Chinese night vision for sale here. The point to be made here in America, the point to be made is they're equipping every Chinese soldier with at least a first-generation device.
Yeah, that's true.
At least. Because they have the ability to make a first-generation device. If they can heat and stretch glass and get somebody who's gone to college and knows about that, and the other, he talks with an electrician, well, they can move that first-generation device up to a second-generation device. And now every Chinese soldier would have a second-generation green screen. Now, we've talked about the American soldier moving away from green screen. This is policy coming right up, you guys. You'll see this. Every American soldier is going to have a piece of thermal instead of a green screen. We've talked about the advantages of each, thermal or green screen, what we call traditional night vision. You know, the night vision you saw even back as long ago as the movie The Green Berets.
Yes.
When that colonel or that lieutenant said, let's see what Starlight Starbright can do. That in that time frame, and for about 15 years after that, was one of the most honest portrayals of night vision in any video, in any movie, in any basic exposure out there in the world. Because they just basically lined the camera up behind a piece of night vision. That's what they did.
Yeah.
And you get to see what the night vision saw. Granted, one stage mechanically removed. Now, I built a night vision video, a classroom video, and then another outdoors video that took more than 6 months to build because, well, it's in the middle of the summer. and there's full moon and no moon, looking across the same landscapes. That's a good example. This was done on purpose, not just to, wander willy-nilly here and there and just turn on the night vision and record it and say, this is a night vision video. You're looking down a road that has an overpass, an expressway overpass, 987 yards away. And every time you look at that scene, no matter summer, winter, full moon, or no moon, the camera and the tripod are positioned right over a surveyor's iron. So it's in right the same place. You see the same bits of land in the summer and in the winter, with no moon, with full moon, with leaves on the trees and not. So that gives you the cyclic example, not only of the light, but of the seasons.
Interesting.
So this video took a good long time to build. It wasn't just, again, built overnight.
Where is this video, Donald? Where can we find this video?
Oh, you can get that from Patriot Broadcasting Network, PBN, Mark and myself and Nancy's broadcasting network.
Okay, I need to find out that. Yeah.
You would send $25 in one way, shape, or form to Nancy Kornke. That's Koernke. Again, Koernke at PBN, Patriot Broadcasting Network, simply PBN, Post Office Box 194 in Dexter, that's Dexter, Dexter, Michigan. Michigan, the only state that abbreviates itself in such a way that it questions its very own existence. Am I?
Yes. And by the way, talking about the PBN, there is a lot of good stuff that I've been buying from Mark the last few years, educational material, preparedness material. I mean, a lot of good information. I mean, I don't know exactly right now. A few years ago, I bought different packages. But the point is, maybe, when you talk to Mark or try to send them an email, find out exactly what they have, because Mark has been collecting the last 30 years a lot of good information for preparing for your group or your community, your family in different scenarios. So ask him. The video I think is great. I didn't know about that, but there are also other important things you can get for very affordable prices. And that's the way also, of course, you support guys, the operation. Now, talking about, I don't want to take anything for granted. Maybe somebody just driving the car and say, okay, Generation 1, what is he talking about? Can you give a short debriefing, at least explanation, what means Generation 1 and how many generations of this night vision we have, so people understand also the difference, because sometimes people think, okay, I got a night vision, but what do you really have? Go ahead, please, Donald.
Thank you. Albert Einstein is the basis for most of the night vision, the thoughts about electronics and light amplification. At the end of World War II, the Germans and the Americans fielded a piece of night vision. It was called, we now refer back to it as Generation 0. It was much like, the screen you looked at was much like being on board an aircraft carrier below decks just as you get ready to, or a submarine with the red lighting before you leave to the outside. Now, it was an active device because the tube wasn't efficient enough to just work with, moonlight. So they had an emitter, and it was a infrared dish about as big as a saucer, 6 inches across or so. And if you looked right at it, straight down it, you would almost look like someone lit a kitchen match, blew it out, and that dinky little burning coal that's left, that was all you would see of this device in the middle of the night, whether you were 5 feet from it or 100 feet from it. But it would provide enough infrared light to give that Generation 0 something to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these had about 120, 140 yards at the most of range. But if it's the brand new thing on the battlefield, then we've talked about this, something people have never seen before. I haven't brought that to your hour, that thought line. But it was rather advantageous to the Germans who first fielded it, one could well imagine, because the Americans and the British, well, the one that you don't see coming is the one that hits you the hardest. You know what I mean? And they didn't see that coming, so they took a lot of hurt at night. But it was just a few months later, not very long, that we had fielded ours. Basically the same setup. It was a big battery. It was hard to carry, and it was an emitter system, Generation 0. The operator looked at a red screen. The thought line there was, well, if he has to put the device down, his eyes aren't too misadjusted to the dark because of the red light.
Yeah.
Now, the same thing happens with green screen. You see, these devices wouldn't work without an emitter, and if there was someone else over there with a piece of night vision without an illuminator, and over there you just move into the field and turn on your illuminator, and, well, you're going to do some business here, you know what I mean? He knows you're there. Because, again, we've talked about that. Turn on the illuminator, and if someone else has a piece of night vision out there, that's like you're walking around or even you're just standing still with a flashlight on.
Yeah.
He's going to look over his device and not see any white light, any other color of light. He's going to bring the device back up, and he will confirm that there's someone over there using a piece of night vision. Now, that was the downfall, so to speak. It was active. We have to get away from that, the thought line about zero generation. So with a little more improvements to the tube, well, they got the tube to work enough it would work in moonlight without supplemental light. That was first generation. Now, that came online. There were some cool things that went into Korea. Not a whole lot of people saw them, but there were some cool night vision binoculars for tank commanders in green screen, and a piece that almost seemed to combine green screen and thermal, but it was a thermal device, but it was very definite. Now, if you were to come across one of these today, that's a collector piece, but many of them are still serviceable. Many of them work. The last time I held one of these in my hand was about 1997.
Wow, interesting.
But they're still out there, and they still work. But that's interim, and that's across the change of technology. Everybody went to first generation after that. That thermal technology kind of disappeared back into the woodwork. Now, we used first generation in Vietnam as previously exampled, the scene in the Green Beret, until about 1971 when second generation became available. We moved a lot of that over to the Arvin and whatnot, but our boys were using second generation in Vietnam in like 1971. The difference being, instead of just the first generation tube, which is a light amplifying tube, I could give you the description. They put a microchannel plate in front of the first generation tube. That microchannel plate, you take a piece of glass and you heat it and you stretch it and you let it cool and you cut it in half. And you lay those two pieces together, and you heat it and stretch it, and you let it cool, and you cut it in half, and so on and so forth, until you're stretching these pieces of glass, and they are finer than hairs.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Now, this is where you get your lines per millimeter talk on first, second, and third generation. The lines per millimeter on first is simply talking about the screen you're looking at. But the lines per millimeter on a second, third, and fourth generation also involves the microchannel plate. Now, they heat this glass and stretch it, and then it's so fine that it's like having a bundle of hairs in your hand till it's about 18 millimeters in diameter.
Wow.
And then they let it cool, and they cut it, and they cut a wafer out of it that's about less than a millimeter thick.
Wow, I had no idea all this.
And they put a coating on that, so that coating can carry electricity across it. And when the light comes through this glass, it drags some of those electrons that are the photons, grab onto an electron and drag it into the first generation device. And now that's where the biggest jump in performance is from first to second generation as far as light amplification. And this is because of the microchannel plate. Now, improvements in the coatings and the lines per millimeter in the microchannel plate took it all the way up from like 28 lines per millimeter to 49 lines per millimeter, 46 to 52 lines per millimeter. And when they got up there, See, the more lines per millimeter in the microchannel plate, every one of those little tubes adds to light amplification and adds to the fineness of the picture. Now, all of a sudden they said, wow, this is so much better than when we started second generation. First they called it second generation plus. And then they went up in the lines per millimeter and put a different coating on it, and they found that, instead of like 2,500 hours a lifetime, we're getting like 9,000 or 10,000 hours a lifetime, and that's such an improvement that they decided to call it third generation.
Wow. Can I ask you something? 1 second, Donald.
Sure.
For example, now I want to get basic, this is very detailed information. I'm trying to get the average person to say, wow, this is like going to school. And don't get me wrong, you don't need to learn everything, guys. But the point is to understand how much work there is behind this technology. Now, the generation 1, let's say you go to Big 5, and you get one of these monocular or whatever. There is also, for example, Sportsman Guide, there is the generation 1 little night vision scope. They go batteries operated for about $500-600 or whatever. This is the generation 1, right? Mostly they are Russian stuff imported, for what I see.
Right. You'll see something that says made in Israel on it. It was made in Russia.
Yes. Now, question: this generation 1, there is some electronic inside, correct? I mean, what type of electronic are we talking about? Because there is the big switch you said that is in generation 2, correct? I mean, we have an advancement in the electronic part, and the point.
Oh yes.
The point I'm trying to get to, in case there is like an electromagnetic field, like a pulse, EMP or a solar storm, this type of equipment should be shielded, probably should be kept in a way that could be damaged, by an electromagnetic field, or is somehow safe. What do you think?
That's a good question. If you look at some of the older Russian goggles that have the battery pack on the back, when you turn them on, you hear them hum. They actually go, you hear a mechanical hum.
Mm-hmm.
That's because it's a mechanical device bumping up the 3 volts in the 2 batteries up to the voltage necessary to run across that night vision tube, so that night vision tube inside's running around 30 or 40,000 volts in a dinky little area.
Wow!
But that's being run up by an amplifier. I don't know the electrical phrase. But it's basically an amplifier.
Yeah.
Now, in the older Russian stuff, that's done mechanically. That creates that hum. In the later Russian stuff, it's done electronically. So you don't hear it. When you turn the device on, all you hear is the click of the button.
Wow.
You don't hear anything else.
Yeah.
So the older Russian is not as susceptible to an EMP. But it's still, if it's close enough, it can get fried. Anything is here's the reference here. They tell flyers, military flyers, if you're close enough but your airframe survives the blast, for every 1.5 feet of wire in the device that you're flying, you're going to collect for every 18 feet of wire, you're going to collect up about 1 volt. So, you can imagine there's lots of wiring in a helicopter or a fighter plane or whatever, anything that would stay in the air, so to speak.
Yeah.
But if the airframe survives the blast, they're only going to collect that much up. Most of the aircraft and military aircraft are hardened against that. But if you were worried in that sense, keep the battery out of the device. That's one thing. You don't want to have it powered up. Lithium batteries, if they're close enough to an EMP, will burn. They will explode, you guys. I don't know if you know that.
No, that was interesting. I didn't know that.
Now, this unto itself, we could go in a completely different direction, but this is a big subject in the people who would take the mark, because it's going to be lithium-powered, lithium-ion, lithium cobalt, whatever. It's going to be a forever battery, and if you take it in your hand or your forehead, when the EMP goes, you'll have that mark visible. Wow. And that's biblical.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Very interesting.
But lithium batteries, so you want to store your lithium batteries separate from your night vision or your laser rangefinder or anything, your communications devices until you need them. Okay? If you're worried to that extent, build a little Faraday cage out of a .50 caliber can. Have you talked with your listeners about that?
No, go ahead,
You'd want to put a ground rod into the ground, like a brass rod 36 inches deep in the ground, and a good ground strap, like a battery strap to that, and bolt that to a 50 caliber can. You can put anything in it that'll fit inside it, but you want to take the rubber seal out of the top of it and perhaps replace that with a bit of Brillo, steel wool, or something along that line until, you can close it, but you have to kind of force it closed, You don't want to bend the can, and you want to put this in uniformly enough that, you create that little bit of seal there with the crushable metal. Now that can is grounded. That can could be close enough, that the airframe might not survive. It might fall out of the sky.
Yeah.
But now I'm putting this up in the air where it's not grounded. I'm using that as example, though.
Yes.
But the device inside would survive the EMP.
Wow, interesting. And this is important, guys, because I know sometimes we just think nothing's going to happen or it may not happen. Unfortunately, there are things already did happen. And without even going to the EMP, I mean, in the Southwest here, about probably 100 years ago or so, we had records of a solar storm that burned all these. At the time, we had just telegraph, so at least the only thing really was somehow damaged because we didn't have any electronics beside that.
Oh, some of the telephone poles caught on fire.
Yes. So
if I remember rightly, I remember the accounts of it. I wasn't there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So my point is this can really happen just naturally. And now, of course, there are many other reasons they may happen. So it's something to consider for many other aspects. But now, I think it's so important. I have a lot of people that I know, friends too. They have, a great rifle collections, or even worse. I say worse because I tell you why. Handgun collections. Don't get me wrong. Great. If you can afford it, get them all. But, as I said, no war was ever won by a handgun, okay? If you want to really
They've been started by them, but not finished. You're right.
Exactly. So you always put your money first into rifle and ammo. And, of course, the handgun is the way you fight, the way to the rifle. But don't get me wrong. You can buy everything you want, everything you can afford. But if you already have the basic, when I came down to the basic, after you got your rifles or your rifle, you should have, in my opinion, at least one night vision that goes on top of the rifle. Because, as I said, many things can happen, even before we go into extreme scenarios. Just with accidents or weather, you have, especially if we live in area like remote areas, at least rural areas like here in Arizona, Mojave County. When there is no electricity here, we're in the middle of the desert. Unless there is moon, you are completely pitch dark. And
in the country, you might want to have a piece of night vision simply to deal with the vermin, the coyotes.
Exactly, exactly. So it is so important that people start to realize this is really practical thing. Like you have a spare tire, you should have a night vision, but something that you can put on your platform. And, the best platform probably would be, in my opinion, in this case, like AR-15 with a flat top. You can easily install it, less recoil. You still have the type of performance because, of course, we're talking about pitch dark, and probably we're not going to generation 3 or 4, something that is very super expensive. But even just with a good generation 1, you can at least control your perimeter. And I tell you, with my generation 1, I can able to put body shots within 100 yards. In decent, conditions, without any type of really moon or things like that. But there is something now that we need to start to prepare now. So, tell us a little bit. First of all, what do you have? Because I know you have something. You have a website. First of all, let's give your website out, and let's start to give exactly this type of options that people need to start to consider. And as I said, if you have many rifles, if you have maybe too many guns, sell a couple guns and get your night vision. Because that's going to be the most important asset for your family, in my opinion, and also for your neighborhood in case there is something really bad start to happen. Go ahead, Donald, please. Give me your website out.
Thank you. Hey, the website's ydtoe.us. That's Yankee, Delta, Tango, Oscar, Echo.us. Again, ydtoe.us. That's Yankee Doodle Tactical Optical Equipment.us. If you go over there, you'll see some text. I encourage you to read the text. If you if you do that, you'll know more about night vision. A lot of websites, they just run you right into this is what you need, but they don't give you a whole lot of information. So I'd like to pride myself in offering you what you need and filling that niche in your particular area. If you call me up and ask me about a gun sight, my first question in that reference is, how far are your ranges? And many of you have heard that, if you've been listening or if you've called. How far are your ranges? Now, that's the first qualifier. Mm-hmm. But let me offer up another qualifier here, because this is something that's hard to do in a audio world, talk about a visual medium. But we can do this to a very, we've kind of refined this over the years, you guys. That Generation 0, you can still find that. And you're going to have to run that with an illuminator. We'll qualify that. But as soon as it gets dark, you turn on your Generation 0, your first generation, second, third, or even fourth generation. Now, you might be standing right, all four of you next to each other, and even the fifth guy with the Generation 0, everybody's going to look at him and tell him, turn that thing off. Mm-hmm. And he's going to understand why, because of the emitter. Now, let's say that there's a full moon, but it came up in the middle of the day, so it's only going to be out for, 5 hours at night. Now, the moon's starting to go down. That guy with the first generation piece, he's starting to think, I need to turn on my illuminator. Mm. And the moon falls below the horizon, and his sight lines have gotten real short compared to what they were with that full moon in the sky. It happens to second, third, and even fourth generation. Third and fourth generation are built to work in extremely low light, so they don't lose the distance that first generation does. By the time that guy wants to turn his illuminator on the first generation piece, the sight line on the second and above have been shortened, but they're still able to deal with the low levels of light. Now let's offer up a different scenario. There's no moon in the sky. There's no clouds in the sky, star-filled sky. Mm. That's on the verge of the guy with the first generation wanting to turn on his illuminator. But if clouds come in, and there's no city reflection off the clouds anywhere, if you're out in a rural area, he's going to want to turn on his illuminator. But the guy with the second generation, he's still going to be all right, because his sight lines are shorter, but he's still producing a good image. If you moved into an area like, well, with a canopy overhead, you're going to want to turn first, second, third, even fourth generation, because, well, you've taken away so much ambient light. So an illuminator is a good thing, but it's a two-edged sword. It's as soon as you light that up, if there's someone else in the arena, in the area, they're going to know it if they're looking in that direction. So there's that caveat about an illuminator, and there's that graduated ability as far as first generation compared to second and third.
Yeah. Very good. I mean, interesting. Now, the point is, of course, something is better than nothing, but the point is, as you pay, I mean, you get what you pay for. As you said, if we're talking about life and death, okay, if you want to just go out and hunting coyotes at night, okay, whatever. Maybe the coyote's going to see you, maybe not, and even if he sees you, whatever. But if you have the situation that you have one piece of equipment that you should rely your life, think about it. One day, maybe not. But what if really you are surrounded by marauders or people that want to take your stuff and take your life, your wife, your children, your dogs, anything you have, and you with your family, your group, and you have only one piece of equipment, in this case, one weapon system, night vision, and you want to be sure that you are stealth. You want to tell them that, hey, don't come close because I can see you, you cannot see me. The moment that they can see you, even without any other night vision, when you got this illuminator or even they can start to see something in the pitch darkness. You're going to give your position away. So this could be something really, unfortunately, that could save your life. So it's up to you guys. Put priority in your life. Everything you want to do, that's fine. But think about what type of potential we're talking about. Maybe get one, but get a good one. Now, what exactly do you have on your website? What type of different generations do you offer? And let's go more into details, how they can get it.
Thank you. If you go over to the website, ydtoe.us, you'll scroll down past the text, and the first thing you'll be into is the digital. You'll see a digital viewer and 2 digital gun sights. All of my gun sights sourced from this company are at minimum 308 capable. They'll live on top of your M1, your AR-10. No problem.
Wow.
Now, the 2 digital pieces there are only different in basically their amount of amplification. The digital devices right now, they've got some pretty cool features with them. They'll range for you. They'll record your last shot for you if you want to do that kind of thing. They have a GPS. It can be shut off. So, you know, we've talked about that, and some people say, oh, it's got GPS. They'll know where you can shut it off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it has some good qualities and bad qualities. The digital can be used throughout the day. You can target with it through the day and into the darkness. But as mentioned earlier, you're going to want to turn the illuminator on before the first generation guy. But that first generation guy, if he wants to use his device in the daytime, he's using it through a pinhole cover, hoping that cover stays on through the recoil, and he's using it for a minimal amount of time because you don't want to use a night vision device in the daytime, a green screen, even through the pinhole, because, well, it's kind of like driving your Pinto up the expressway in second gear at expressway speeds, you know. It's not good for it. Now, I've got that. There's a 5 to 18 power digital. I think that's at $550 right there.
Wow.
We're looking at procuring a handful because sometimes you can dig it up, but we found some first generation green screen, and we're looking at procuring that. We will offer that once it's in our hand. But that's like, you know, count your chickens and all of that. When it comes to us, we'll talk about it. But if you move up from there, we're looking at a second generation real green screen. Mm-hmm. Now, that's 4 power. If you see at the website, I think that's advertised for $1,397, give or take $2.
Okay.
It's either $1,395 or $1,399. But if you call me and we can enter the right code, you can put that in your mailbox for like $1,255.
Wow, that's very good. And I can ask you something. These products, they are like military surplus or they are brand new? Exactly where they're from, just to have an idea.
Oh, some of these are hybrid. Some of these are American-built. Some of these are, as example, that second generation piece just referenced, that's probably going to be a Russian tube.
Mm-hmm.
There's hardly an American second generation tube available now. At least you come across a small stock of them someplace, new old stock on somebody's shelf. It's been better than 7 years since ITT ran a batch of second generation tubes for America. So
wow.
The American military is using third generation, so that's the big tell right there. There's almost no point in them building second generation anymore. That device at $1,255 is a Russian tube that's going to give you 3,500 or 4,500 hours compared to Americans' 2,500 hours.
Wow.
If we go up from there, I can offer a Belgian tube in second generation that'll go almost 8,000 hours.
Wow.
Now, that's almost the lifetime of a third generation tube.
Well, question, when you say 8,000 hours, okay, or 3,000 hours, means that technically after these hours, is the night vision may start to malfunction or may start to die? How does it exactly work?
Well, let's reference back to that microchannel plate, because it offered protection to a first-generation tube to the extent that a first-generation tube will give you about 1,500 hours of life. You put a microchannel plate in front of it, and you get 2,500 hours of life. But every time an electron or a photon goes through that microchannel plate, it degrades it a little bit.
Wow.
Eventually, those individual little glass tubes, they say, you'll never do that to me again. And when you get enough of them together in one place, you start to see a little dinky little dot on your screen that you're looking at. Now, this is one of the things they did to go from third generation to fourth generation, they changed one of the protective films. It lets more light in, and obviously if it lets more light in, well, it's going to work in even lower light. And fourth generation is tremendous in low light. But if you work it up into like half a moon, 3/4 of a moon, for a couple of hours, you notice that you start to get what are called flecks on the screen, like someone has splashed or dashed pepper across it. Now, those are those microchannel tubes failing.
Interesting. Okay.
So fourth generation is tremendous. If you have the discipline to keep it in extreme low light, it'll live 10, 12, 14,000 hours for you. But if you work it out in higher light, where second and even third generation is more comfortable, you're going to affect the screen more dramatically than you would as witnessing the lifetime of second or third generation. That occurs in a bell, Zena. That it's a bell curve that you're going to get very good brightness over a good portion of the light of the lifetime of the device, and then it will start to curve down as far as its light amplification until it becomes unsatisfactory.
Any special type of care that you need to do? I mean, to keep it the best you can.
You know, I often joke about don't loan it to your brother-in-law.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I understand.
Because you want to keep an eye on it, because simply a green screen device, you can damage it by having the front cover off, the pinhole cover, and turning it on.
Yeah. Even
inside the house, because the defenses don't come up as fast as the tube warms up.
I see.
So second, third, let's go back to first generation. There was an American first generation device, the PVS-2. That was a gun sight. It weighed over 6 pounds. When they first deployed that, it had no automatic brightness control or no bright source protection. I'll define those for you. Bright source protection is, well, if you're looking across the field and you turn ever so slightly and now you're looking at a fire, or you're looking at the field and a fire bursts out over there, an explosion or whatnot, the device is going to slow itself down or even shut itself off to defend itself from that high light. That's bright source protection. Automatic brightness control is on the other end, and almost every American device has had automatic brightness control since the PVS-2. Now, this disqualifies the Hollywood scenario where the guys are creeping through the room with the goggles on, and someone flips on the light and they all scream because they're going blind, because it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
For bright source control and automatic brightness. So there are defenses built into the devices now that will keep it from, just, frying in your hand in an instant because you turned it on in the daylight. But they don't come on as fast as the tube warms up. So the worst thing you can do is turn on a green screen in open daylight without the front cover on it. So again, don't loan it to your brother-in-law, because he doesn't care too much about it. He didn't buy it.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Now, let's go specific. I have a lot of, I call them friends, because when somebody buy the Don't Trade on Us rifle, it's not just, even I never met them, I consider brothers and sisters, because they buy more than just a rifle. They're buying a concept of freedom. With the rifle comes the Constitution, comes also the idea that we are the last line of defense of this republic. So I make it very clear. So I want to really treat them as, for me, like brothers. And that's why I'm here. I want to bring you up here, because I consider you a brother too, even never met you, like I consider Mark, a person that we share the same value, the same hopes. So my
brothers
point,
in arms.
Exactly. So we're here to try to help each other. And my goal here is say, guys, I want to be able to give you a rifle that is affordable and reliable. And of course, I want to give you also, I always scout around for ammunition. I'm like a little rat going on the internet finding the best deals. And I'm not even waiting for this company to become my sponsors. I want to share it with you. Wherever I can find you cheap deal, it means you save money, you buy more, I give it to you. Today, I want to, first of all, share this deal. I think it's a very good deal, in my opinion. SGMO.com. They have an incredible deal for 1,000 round of 223 Remington, 55 grains, full metal jacket, brown bear. That, by the way, they work so well with the Don't Trade on Us rifle. I shot a few thousands of those. Never even a problem. Seriously, they 223 wild chamber. It loves 5.56. And it loves also this 223, in steel case for $215.90. $215.90 for a good training ammo, or at least a bulk stock ammo, with just $16 in shipping. So it's not a bad deal. So far, I found the best deal. So that's something I want to interact there. But now, specifically, for everybody already is buying the Don't Trade on Us rifle, since you can remove the handle, the rear side handle, and you have a flat top, let's give them a couple of options of night vision with two different budgets for people that say, I want to have something now, maybe the first generation or whatever you think, and then something that could be maybe more expensive for people that already put in some money at the site. Please go ahead and give them the website again and give them the two packages that you can offer.
Thank you. The website is ydtoe.us. Again, that's Yankee Delta Tango Oscar Echo.us. When you get there, you'll see digital for entry level. And again, digital can be used in the daytime. That's a plus. It can be used into the dark. And that would be entry level. I have a piece I can offer, 5 to 18 power for $550. And I'll throw in the delivery for your listeners.
Wow.
You're going to have to tell me that.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a call. My number is 231-796-8458. If we move up from there into real green screen, we can talk about that 4-power device mentioned earlier. Again, that's lists on the website there for $1,397, give or take $2. You put the right code in, we can put that in your mailbox for $12.55. And for your listeners, I'll pick up the delivery on that also.
Wow.
One more. I have a thermal device that'll live on top of your 308. It'll recognize a human being at 340 meters.
Wow.
That will fade and become less distinguishable out to about 900 meters.
Wow.
Now, I can put that in your mailbox for $51, less than $2,000.
Wow.
I'll pick up the delivery on that for your listeners.
That's really good. And by the way, thermal is another thing I didn't touch today, but it's so important because, there is a lot of things you can do with the night vision, but with thermal, you have another world. I mean, it's a new level, okay? And
perhaps we'll do another hour soon and talk about, because we could talk for half an hour about the difference, what the digital will and won't do, what the green screen will and won't do, and what the thermal will and won't do, and we can talk about the advantages of each, and how I might want this one for this instance or that one for another.
Well, Lista, guys, all I say, start at least to learn about this. Time is now. I understand economy stuff. We are not talking about a little toy here or a little cheap Chinese little red dot. This is an investment. But consider this as an investment for your family, also for your community. Maybe, I don't know, if you already have a group of people that work together, neighbor group, or even just, this type of neighborhood watch that you get together, consider, I don't like this type of community investment. I like to buy stuff for myself, and of course then we can trade and share, but that's another story.
Private property.
Exactly. But still, find a way to get at least one. Because when and if, and unfortunately the if is becoming less and less probable, it's becoming more like when, we will have a crisis and we have no electricity, you wish you remember these wars, and every dollar that you spent at the useless coffee place or whatever other way that you spent your money, I don't care how broke you are. I know that you go out, even drinking the stupid sodas or going out to the Starbucks or whatever, at the end of the 6 months, you probably could have afforded a night vision. That's a fact. It's easy to see how much money people can waste. So go to Yankee Doodle Tactical Optical Equipment, ydtoe.us, and at least take a look, honestly. And I want to be clear, Donald, you're not my sponsor. I bring you here, first of all, because I really like what you're doing, and more important, because I think you're offering a very vital service to the community of Americans who understand what's going on and want to be prepared. So when you listen to the show, I tell you when he's a sponsor. Donald, for me, is a person that we respect, and I think he has something to offer that is valuable, and I want him up, and I want you to take this opportunity. Am I right, Donald, or not?
Thank you.
Confirm.
Thank you. Hey, let me point out something. I know we're getting close, but when we talk about electronics, you guys, if you buy a piece of night vision now, you're familiar with it. You know what it can and can't do. If you work through it through the seasons, you know what it'll do with no moon and with full moon. If you pick a piece of electronics up off a battlefield, you do not know what it is for certain. If you find yourself in this instance, try to take it to someone who knows what this might be. Don't turn it on. That's a sound piece of advice there.
Yeah.
It might be a piece of night vision. It might be something else, but don't power it up until you find someone who knows for certain what it is.
Exactly, because as you said, they may also have a GPS, You may bring home a piece of a tracker. You never know.
Exactly.
Listen, Donald, I want to thank you again and thank Mark when you talk to him. I really enjoyed the time together on the show, and I enjoyed today together. So I say, guys, you're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom. We're going now for the hour number 3. Don't forget, this is not the government, okay? We do not extort your money. We offer product and services that we trust and we believe for great prices, and you have free will. And that's how we stay in business, because people decided if we want to stay in business. So please go check it out. This is NightVision at ydtoe.us. And I will post the link on Love, Guns, and Freedom, lovegunsfreedom.com on the homepage for today's show, so people can go there and check it out directly. Don't forget, if you want to look into the Freedom Rifle, Don't Trade on Us rifle, the most affordable military-grade rifle in 5.56 and 223. Technically, it's the 223 Wild, but you can shoot both calibers. You go to freedomrifle.com, the most affordable on the market with a lot of great freebies for just $499. Now, yes. Donald, I have like exactly 60 seconds. Whatever you want to say, I give you the floor.
Well, I thank you very much for your time. And you guys, all we can do is, and I hate to be this way, but all we can do is all we can do. And if you're not doing anything, well, it's shame on you. And if you're not getting ready, well, you're not paying attention to the people around you. Those that are concerned for you, that say you should do this. Why? Because they don't want to carry you later, because it'll be hard for them to carry themselves. Preparation is everything. Everything. Thank you, Luca. God bless you.
Thank you. Okay, guys, don't go away. We have hour number 3.
Don't tread on us. Do you want social justice? Now I give you social justice. The Zanna way. Don't Trade on Us, the Freedom Rifle by Zanna. The most affordable military-grade semi-automatic AR-15 rifle in M4 configuration, chambered in 223 Wild, that can shoot both 5.56 NATO and 223 Remington. 4 minutes of angle for just $499. Made in the USA. Get your Freedom Rifle now. We need every law-abiding American armed with knowledge and at least one military rifle, ready to defend good against evil. With every Don't Trade on Us rifle, you will get free parchment replica of the United States Constitution, free digital CD, Don't Trade on Us, free ebook, How to Become a Rifleman, free t-shirt, Slaves Are Never Armed, I Am Not a Slave, free 30 rounds magazine where allowed by the law, free laser engraved ejection port, Don't Trade on Us, for just $499. Go to www.freedomrifle.com, www.freedomrifle.com. Get your Freedom Rifle now.